Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been so long since I have filmed a video. Obviously being pregnant has been crazy. A lot of stuff has been going on with like a new job and all that, so I just have not had a chance to get onto YouTube. It's not that I'm not trying to make YouTube a priority anymore, it's just that I haven't been motivated to make content and life has been just nuts. I know I didn't film any more updates on my pregnancy, so I'm going to kind of run down exactly how the pregnancy ended and then I'm going to do my birth story. I really want to share my experience, how everything went. I think it's really important that I get that message out there, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this. Obviously baby's here, baby's in the dock-a-tot over here. So I'm 4 days postpartum, which isn't bad. It hasn't been all that crazy. I delivered at 39 weeks and 5 days and I was induced at 39 weeks and 5 days. So I'll kind of run through what was happening at the end of my pregnancy. So my pregnancy was pretty much a breeze all the way up until about end of November or beginning of December. I started having round ligament pain, which is you have ligaments that hold your uterus together normally, and as they stretch, they start to become kind of painful. And I had really bad kind of sharp pain in my abdomen through my back. So it was kind of like this hugging your rib cage pain through here. So it started on my right side and then it progressively kind of changed. It was probably from sleeping without supporting my belly. So like as I slept on my left side at night, mostly because of all my heartburn, I was stretching those ligaments, and it came on pretty much like every day around lunchtime. It just kind of became progressively worse and worse. But that was probably the worst part of my pregnancy. That and my swelling was really bad. My face was really swollen. My lips, you can still see that obviously my face and my lips. I was holding a ton of water. Still am. My feet were really bad, and my hands, I couldn't wear like normal shoes for like forever. I kind of struggled with that near the end of my pregnancy, but besides that, it was pretty easy and healthy. We had 2 trips to the hospital before we actually, had go time. First one was for low fetal movement. If you call your doctor with no fetal to low fetal movement late in your pregnancy, they will send you directly to the hospital. They don't mess around with that. So we haven't felt baby B in like 3 hours, so I was getting kind of nervous, and I had like a brownie and a little bit of sugar, and it didn't kind of spark like the kicking. So that we went in on a Saturday around 10:30 and just had that checked out. All was good. So then that next Thursday I was home from work, because I was working from home 1 to 2 days a week depending on how I was feeling, and also the days that I had doctor's appointments. And I started having contractions, and they started getting closer and closer and closer together. So I had an appointment, called my doctor. They said, your contractions are 5 minutes apart pretty consistently. Go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. Long story short, they got as close as 3 minutes apart, and they were changing my cervix, which is kind of how they measure whether it's Braxton Hicks or real contractions. And they were changing my cervix just at a very slow pace. So I was at like 1 centimeter, and then I was at like 1.5 centimeters, and just thinning slightly. So it wasn't like active labor. So they go home, you might go into active labor tonight, and let us know. So that's Thursday. Went home, and I just kind of kept having contractions over and over, but nothing that was getting me to active labor. So a week had passed, and I went to my doctor that next Thursday, and it was my regular OB who I normally see, and she said, she could tell that I was really getting fatigued. I was having a hard time. I was dilated to 2.5 at that point, and she was like, you dilated another centimeter, you're thinned out a lot, your body is changing, and the baby's head down, ready to go, at a -1 station, and nothing is happening. Let's wait this week and see on Tuesday how you feel, and we'll consider an induction, because the baby was already pretty big, and my body was kind of trying to start labor, but it was having a hard time getting it going. So long story short, we saw our midwife on Tuesday, and she gave the okay, because at that point I was 2.5, almost 3. She gave the okay to go and be induced on that Thursday. So yes, I had an induction. No, I did not go to my due date. The reason I had an induction, in case people are curious, because everyone gets super freaked out about inductions, is because I was in what they call early labor for 2 weeks, and my body was just needed that extra push. And my midwife and my doctor both knew that and agreed that that was the case. They knew that my cervix was favorable. I was ready to go. The baby was fine, big, but I was just getting beat up every night waking up all the time, couldn't sleep because I was constantly having contractions, and they weren't like Braxton Hicks contractions. They were actually painful contractions. So after 2 weeks of being tortured by my contractions without starting labor, we went in Thursday morning at 7:30 to be induced. Let me talk about the practice I go to. I am very particular about my doctors, and I have a lot of really good friends who are doctors, so I take that very seriously when I was picking an OB. At the time, didn't realize, but I preferred kind of a practice that was heavy on midwives. So my practice has 5 OBs and 3 midwives. In my practice, unless you have a high-risk pregnancy or something like you need medical intervention, you are delivered via midwife as opposed to a medical doctor. I saw both my medical doctor and my midwife pretty regularly. I saw all the 5 doctors, or the 5 in the practice. So I kind of had my favorites and I knew who they were. So that Thursday was on call my medical doctor, my DO, who I see on a normal basis, who's my gynecological doctor too, and then also one of the midwives, so who I had been seeing regularly and really liked. I get to the hospital, go to the bathroom, start to change, all that kind of stuff, and I can hear one of the registered nurses, who's is our nurse at the time, talking to Brandon, and she's kind of saying like, why are you guys doing induction, and asking all these questions, and saying this could be a 4-day or 2-day process, this could last 48 hours, inductions are really harsh, they're really bad, they take a really long time, it moves slow. And we were kind of like, I could see Brandon's eyes just getting bigger and bigger. When I came out, he was like, whoa, 2 days? Like, he wasn't prepared for 2 days. And I kind of, it kind of freaked me out, but then I kind of brushed it off because I knew I had a lot of faith in my doctor. With that said, we started the process. So because my cervix was already favorable, because I was kind of already having contractions, they knew that they were just going to give me a little kick with Pitocin and hoping to get everything started pretty naturally. An induction is definitely a different experience than going into birth naturally, because you do labor for the most part in the hospital. So we started off at the hospital at 60 to 70% effaced at 3 centimeters exactly. Not crazy, but definitely very far along, considering a lot of people who go to the hospital who have inductions are usually induced around 40 to 41 weeks. So the baby's already a little bit bigger, and a lot of times they're induced because their cervix has not changed at all. So they're like posterior, 100% closed, and nothing effaced. So that means, I'm not going to explain how this all works, but pretty much you obviously have your dilation, which is, everything getting big enough for the head, but also you have your effacement, which is your thinning, which is your cervix pulling apart. So, and then making room for the head. All this has to do with making room for the head. A lot of women who go to the hospital for inductions are like absolutely not even ready. Their bodies haven't even started the process. They're not even having contractions. They have to have their cervix ripened, which is a 12-hour process sometimes, with a drug called Cervidil or something like that. And that can take a really long time. Sometimes they're even sent home if their cervix isn't changing at all. But because I was already favorable, I went straight into Pitocin, which is a synthetic oxytocin, the love hormone, which is what kickstarts your labor, which kickstarts your contractions. So that's pretty much what my doctor thought all we needed was something to kickstart my contractions, because I was so close and ready to go. My contractions were just there, but wimpy. They weren't doing anything. So by the time I got Pitocin started going, it was probably around like 9 o'clock. Maybe a little bit later, maybe closer to 10. I'm not sure. I should have written times down, but So my mom came, hung out with me. Brandon went to get lunch. And I saw my midwife came in around 11, and she said, I'm going to break your water. And I said, whoa, 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 no one's here. Like, I was by myself. My mom was on the way, and Brandon just left. Right, so I have no idea where I was, because I had people come in and the lights changed, so I had to bring my ring light in here. So no more sunlight, really. So she came back around 1:15 to break my water. So she comes in, which is weird, by the way. When you're a first-time mom and you've never done this before, when someone says they're going to break your water, you're like, how? Like, it just seems like such a weird thing. The process, by the way, if you're curious, is it's like an exam, like your normal exam that she would check to see if you're dilated, and then they take like this little hook thing, small little hook, and they take it and they put a hole in your amniotic sac, and then she puts her finger through it and wiggles it, so it just kind of feels like a really intense check at that point. And then like water starts to come out, obviously, and then like as your contractions, which I wasn't prepared for, as you have contractions, you like water comes out during contraction. That was definitely an interesting thing that I wasn't really prepared for. Obviously they put like towels down. It's very, very messy experience. So at that point it was about 1:15 and they pumped up the Pitocin a little bit and my contractions started to come fast. So we started having contractions. I started probably every like 5 minutes and I quickly got to every 3 minutes, and then they started to stack 1, 2, 3 within like a couple minute time frame. Then I get a little bit of a break for 3 minutes, and then I'd pretty much have stacked contractions 1, 2, 3 over and over again. So that really started kicking in around 3 o'clock. They brought the peanut in and I started doing the side to side, and I pretty much was like on my side holding on to the bed and going through contractions and not really being able to talk or move or anything. After Brandon just kind of sat there and watched me have contractions, which is kind of hard. Like, they don't really know what to do. He tells me to breathe and that's about it. So I labored for about 3.5 hours. 4 o'clock rolls around and I was like, I need an epidural. Like, I couldn't make it any further. I knew that I could feel that I was holding back my body and I was holding on, so I wasn't going to change, which is the whole point of having contractions. You're supposed to dilate, but if you're holding, you know, tightening your body, you're not really contracting, letting the contractions do the job, which is pushing the baby down. At that point, we ordered the epidural, which was amazing. They came in. So this is the process of an epidural, because until you have it, you really don't know. You say, I want an epidural. They call an anesthesiologist. The anesthesiologist comes in the room and brings 2 carts. She comes in and says, all right, either you're gonna like lay down on your side or she wants you to sit up. And she wants you to sit up, which, by the way, that was the hardest part for me, is going from laying on this side. I had to sit up, move up the bed, and put my feet like in like kind of off the bed and sit straight up. And I was having like constant contractions, so it was just like, it was moving pretty much during contractions. There was no way around it. Got up, kind of hunched over, and she came over. And she was very good, and she really talked me through it. She said, all right, now I want you to like slouch as much as you can, kind of lean into Brandon's chest, and she's like, I'm gonna rub your back like with cold, which was obviously she was cleaning it. And then she just walked it through it. You're gonna feel a sting and a burn, which is what she uses, the Novocaine or whatever she uses to numb it. And then you're gonna feel pressure, which is, I assume, her inserting the catheter. The catheter is the size of, I would say, a rice noodle. If you know what a rice noodle is, like, we're talking tiny, 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 tiny. This catheter is the smallest thing I've ever seen. I didn't even know how medicine could get through there. So she inserts the catheter, and then she said, now your back is gonna feel full. And literally your back feels full as the medicine goes in there, your back starts to feel full. Now, this all happened in a time frame of maybe 5 minutes. Not even. From like the time she walked in the room to where we are now, it's been maybe 5 minutes. So it's really fast. And then at that point I laid down and I had 2 more contractions that I felt, and then I was pretty much done. The way medicine works is it starts to kind of go through. It works by gravity, so you want to make sure that you're not laying, like I was on this side still at first. So my right leg got really, 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 really numb, like intensely numb, like I couldn't even pick it up numb. And I left, I still had feeling and movement. And obviously it's not a perfect process, and they're never, both sides are equally numb. She doesn't even check me. I have the peanut and I'm just laying on this side, so this side gets numb. She checks me around 6:30, and I have not really changed that much around 6:30, but I've completely effaced. So I've thinned out, but I'm still dilated around 4 centimeters. So my parents show up, shift changes at 7, so she leaves to change shifts, right? My parents show up around 7, and my little sister Teresa shows up around 7 to see how I was doing. So at that point, they actually, which is really, I would suggest, is a great position. Obviously the idea is you're trying to open your hips up and relax and let the contractions do their job, and I was having consistent contractions on the monitor. So, and not being able to feel it. This leg was my right leg was too numb, so she's like, well, we're gonna kind of sit you up. So at that point, the beds that I delivered in has like a partition around your kneecaps, maybe a little bit lower or a little bit higher. Then actually they drop down. So she kind of sat me up in bed, because obviously you don't want to sit up all the way, because you don't want to lose the sensation on the top of your uterus. You don't want to gain sensation into your like, uterus area. You want to keep some kind of laying back. And she took my feet, and she put my feet down lower, and she brought my knees kind of up towards my crotch, right? So I was kind of like open crotch sitting there. Obviously I had a blanket over, no one could see anything, but it just kind of spread out, relaxed, and just sitting there talking to everyone, because obviously you don't feel anything, in all honesty, nothing. You know when you're getting a contraction, because you can feel the pressure of it, but it doesn't hurt. It's not bothersome. It's just, you still know it's there. At this point though, my left side wasn't nearly as numb as my right, so I could still feel a little bit of pressure around my hip bone. And I kept kind of telling her, like, I can feel something around my hips. I can feel something on my left hip. You know, I can feel the pressure. And she was like, it's whatever, you're fine, just move to this side. That was at 7 o'clock. My family visited, and then they ended up leaving around 8, and Brandon and I were kind of hanging out, and I asked the new nurse who came in and kind of introduced herself, and I had said, oh, by the way, let me back this up. The nurse that I had originally was definitely very negative, saying like, you're going to push for 1+ hours, you know, 1.5 to 2.5 hours is normal for first-time mom. You're not going to see your doctor. You're not going to see your midwife. Well, I saw my doctor and my midwife. My doctor and my midwife came in because my doctor's not delivering because my pregnancy, there's no reason at this point. So she wanted to come in because she's making rounds, say hi. They did this right after I got the epidural, so I could actually talk to them, which was really nice. But at this point, my parents have left. My midwife comes back with another nurse, and she's like, I'm going to check you. And I was laying, because I was having pressure on my left, pretty intense, not intense, but definitely pressure on my left, kind of around my hip bone. And I was like, I definitely feel something on that side. They had rolled me kind of over to this side with the peanut, or I kind of rolled myself, I should say. Like, I told Brandon, grab the peanut, and then I kind of started like slowly move myself over. And she checked me, and she's like, you're at 9. And I had already gotten, because I was at 4 when my other nurse checked me, and she was like, oh, it's gonna be a while, you're only at 4. And I was like, shit, this baby's not coming until, you know, hopefully it comes before shift change the next morning, which is 7 a.m. for my doctor and my midwife. I'm like, I hope I don't miss them because I'm taking so damn long. So Shelly says, so my midwife says you're at 9, and I, of course, don't believe her because I never believe anything. I'm like, really? What? Are you sure? 9? She's like, yeah, you're at 9. This baby's coming soon. And I was like, holy crap. And then she said the baby was turned where the baby was turned so it was facing kind of like my hip, which is why I was having that pressure in my hip. So they needed to turn the baby. So they turned me all the way over to my left side and put a table, like one of those tables they have that you eat, like the trays. And they put that kind of close over here to me and put my leg on top of it and let me lay like that for 2 hours. So what that process is called, it's called laboring down. And this is what I think made the difference in my labor, is getting the epidural to calm down, and then my doctor letting me labor down. So at 9 centimeters, most of the time people are like, well, we're gonna push in 10 minutes, or, you know, push in an hour. If you're on the scale of, you get a dilation every hour. My doctor was like, or my midwife was like, yeah, you're gonna be here, the baby's here. And I said, I want to labor down. Like, I was not in a rush to push. I knew that naturally your body will push this baby out without even you doing anything, just by contractions. So the longer you let your body labor down, the further down the baby gets. Because I knew the baby had to turn a little bit, we kind of just said, we're not in a rush, and I pretty much took a nap. So I kind of just dozed on and off. Obviously it's not comfortable, so you're not sleeping like hard sleeping, because you have monitors everywhere, which was one of the worst parts. I had a cuff here, and I had my IV, and then you have a monitor on your finger for your heart. You have all the monitors on your stomach, so you're just like a puppet. Oh, and the epidural wires, I was like, wires everywhere. So she told me to keep pushing my light consistently. She's like, don't let it go. Like, some people are like, oh, I don't want to push it, I don't want to overdo it. You can't overdrug yourself. So she said, just keep pushing it, keep pushing it. By the way, when you push it, you can feel the cold coming down into your spine. It's weird. But you kept pushing it. Every time it would light up, I would kind of see it, and I would like wake up and push it. And that's usually like 10 minutes. So sometimes I obviously went longer, maybe 30 minutes without pushing it. But for the most part, I try to push it every single time I could, because I knew that would keep me numb. And if I wasn't pushing, they'll back it down if I wasn't pushing correctly, but I figured I was at least gonna get my chance to, like, you know, not feel it. So about 11:15, 11:30 rolls around, and I'm laying here and I hear like a pop, like a pew, you know, and I'm like, that came from that back end, but it wasn't like gas. I don't know what that was. So Brandon called the nurse and said, like, Natalie heard a pop and pressure, and we're kind of like wondering what's going on. because I had no idea at that point how far this baby was down. At this point, my midwife comes in, the nurse comes in, and they're like, we're going. We're 2 hours, you're done. You're ready to go. Let's get this process going. So I was like, okay. So they come in and they start the process of setting up. So at that point, she turns on the lights because the lights have been off. She turns me to the side and like starts to put me in labor position, and we're getting ready to push like this. It's just, I don't know why you think that it's going to be so different, and it's or one way, and it turns out to be so different. Like, you think it's going to be this big dramatic thing, and it's just me, Brandon, thank God, and my midwife, my nurse, and my baby nurse, right? And the baby nurse is kind of off in the background doing her own thing. She's setting up for the baby. We're like, okay. I had never taken a Lamaze class. I hadn't taken birthing classes. I really had no idea what I was doing. I kind of had my philosophy was, when I asked questions about birth, labor, hospitals, every single person's answer has been different. So in my head, I'm like, if I prepare for it a certain way, chances are it's not going to happen that way. So I kind of prepared for the fact that like, I have no idea how this is going to work out, because no one had a consistent story, and I didn't expect that I would have a consistent story. So she says, which is what you see all the time, you know, they put your legs up. Brandon's holding one leg, she's holding the other leg. And she says, I want you to take a deep breath in, hold it, and then push like you're trying to take a bowel movement. Well, you can't feel like anything down there. So how do you take a bowel movement? And then she explained to me, you want to fill your lungs up with air. My midwife did. After I pushed a few times, she said I pushed well, but you know, whatever. At this point, by the way, the baby is like, is crowning. Like it's at a -5 station. Like we are ready to go. And so I knew I wasn't gonna have to push a lot because the baby's already all pretty much there. She could see the very top of the head. So she explained it to me saying, fill up your lungs, because your lungs are gonna push on your diaphragm. Your diaphragm's gonna push on your uterus, and your uterus is gonna push this baby out. So I focused on filling up my lungs and pushing my lungs into my diaphragm, because that's the only thing I could feel, or my lungs, right? I couldn't feel anything else down there. And I was like, I think I'm pushing right. And she's like, you're pushing perfect. And I was like, okay. Like I had no idea, because you can't feel it. And even if you could feel it, I don't know through the pain you could actually feel it. And I'm very curious to know why people have like 2 hour, 3 hour plus pushing experiences. And I'm thinking it's because they don't labor down. But then also, if you go natural, I mean, I couldn't imagine laboring down naturally. No, never. Because you have the sensation to push. How do you push, like concentrate on pushing in that area? I feel like there's so much pain. You're kind of in the same position I am, where you're just pushing and hoping you're pushing the right place, right? Or from the right place, or to the right place, however you want to explain it. Because if you don't have an epidural, the pain's crazy. And if you have the epidural, you can't feel it. So the process of pushing to me, and like them trying to explain it to someone, is very funny. Start pushing, and I start pushing at exactly like 12:05, maybe a little past 12:05, like between 12:05 and 12:10, I start pushing. So you push on your contractions, and at that point my contractions had slowed down a little bit, obviously probably because the baby was there. They were like, whoa, 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 you're not pushing, you need to pay attention to the fact that this baby's coming. So my contractions were slowing down. At some points they were like 3 minutes apart, so I had some time in between pushes to relax. So, and a big difference, and this is very TMI, I had a lot of horror stories about people saying that they tore, and that was a big thing I did not want to do. I didn't want to tear, and I didn't want an episiotomy. I've had people tell me, get the episiotomy, it's better to cut, not tear, and I've had people say don't even try. During one of my appointments, I asked my midwife, and they pretty much explained it to me saying, so it's like perineal massage is what they call it, right? So the area of your vagina, that skin is actually very, very, very tough, because that's what it's made for, right? To push a baby out. So the idea is if you cut it with an episiotomy, you weaken that ring of muscles, and you could start tearing more. But obviously if you rush it and just push this baby out, you're gonna tear it because they haven't had a chance to stretch. So it's a muscle like everything else, and you can stretch it out. So what she did, and I could feel it during my contractions, and because I wasn't pushing crazy amounts, and I wasn't pushing too hard, and I wasn't pushing too often, she would just take her fingers and slowly work them around the head, and just slowly kind of help my body expand and relax as this baby came out more and more. And because of that, I didn't have any tearing at all. And it's a first time mom, that's a huge thing. Like, no one believed me that it was the truth, but it's because she worked on making this process go as slow as I could and letting my body naturally do it, which is so funny because of course I have an epidural and I had Pitocin, so those aren't natural ideas, but she took what the fact that we weren't in pain, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't having a lot of issues, and she allowed that to be what she took that opportunity and allowed me to labor down and have the most natural kind of labor and slow labor process as possible. I pushed for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, between 20 and 25 minutes, had absolutely no tearing, and she just kind of slowly let it happen. Contractions every 3 minutes, so we had some nice pauses waiting for contractions to come, and we pushed this baby out. Now, if you remember, we don't know the sex of the baby at this time. So this is just a baby to us. No sex, no name, no nothing. And you can feel, like, even though you can feel the head, right? You know there's a head there. But then you can really feel, which is weird to me, is you can feel the body come out, right? The limbs, like, you like feel like the little legs squirm out. And Brandon was up there with me, and he was like, I'm not gonna look at anything, and he saw all of it. So if you think your spouse is gonna like not see anything, no. Unless he's like not holding your leg and he's standing like way away, he's gonna see everything, because you're at that point they have you hold your own legs, so you're really like pulled up. And so at that point, you know, the head's there, everything's there, the body's there, it comes out, obviously it comes out in like a gush of everything, like the baby, the sac, the cord, blood, everything comes out, right? It's a pretty intense exit. And because I requested skin to skin, they put baby right on my chest. Because we did not know the sex of the baby, I asked to have Brandon tell me. So of course the baby comes out and I'm like looking at him going, what is it? He goes, I think we have a girl. Because the umbilical cord is like kind of over her. But of course she's like, yes, it's a girl. And he kind of picks her up so I can then see her, and then she goes directly onto my chest because I requested skin to skin. So they take my gown, which is already like barely covering anything, and they just pull it right up to my neck, and they just place this covered in vernix, which is like the white creamy stuff, baby, all just on me. So this little creature comes flying on my chest. That is just like the most amazing thing in the world. And at that point they did, you know, they started to do other things. Like she pretty much delivered the placenta. I don't even remember her saying anything about it. I just felt like, here comes the placenta, and she like took it out, and you could just feel it kind of like, because it's large, you just feel that came out. And then she kind of tending to do what she does down there. And meanwhile the baby's just sitting on my chest. They're kind of tending to the baby, and I'm just like, they did the delayed cord clamping on the baby, which we did skin to skin right away for almost an hour, I would say, like with a small takeaway as the weighing happened. So delayed cord clamping and then the delayed cord cutting. Brandon cut the cord. He was like, this is weird. Like how the blood vessels are supposed to look inside the cord, like 3 blood vessels, I guess, or whatever, like 2 small ones and 1 big one. And that was really cool. And the baby was all covered in vernix and stuff, obviously, so they just kind of left that on. That's really good for them. Helps kind of keep their skin moisturized. But she popped out, cried almost immediately, and then pretty much put her on my chest, and she pretty much did not cry. And that is kind of her personality. I can see that now. But I definitely think that a skin-to-skin baby is a much more calm baby. Even my midwife and my nurse both said that the nurse had been delivering babies for 30 years, and she said that since this has really become an initiative by the World Health Organization, it's made a big difference. She said in the babies that she's seen delivered are much calmer, because they come right onto your chest, and it's like, it's not that huge change. Obviously there's babies that have to go away and you can't do skin on skin. Skin on skin is only allowed on babies that are like come out healthy, breathing on their own, that kind of stuff. No complications. Brandon took a little bit of video, like very small amount, and I was like this. My whole like boobs are hanging out and everything, and I'm just like in shock. I'm like, I can't believe it's girl. I can't believe I just did this. I didn't cry. Like some people like cry and get really emotional. I was just more like, holy shit, this actually just happened. Because I think up until the point like it actually happened, I was concentrated on the process of giving birth and not actually the fact that like a baby came out at the end and that it was gonna be our baby. So that was a really crazy part and amazing. And My midwife was amazing and my nurse was amazing, and it just was like such a cool process. I highly recommend it just being you and your partner if you can have it that way. It's chaos enough. My baby nurse was really cute. She was like cheering in the background. I mean, maybe if you had like someone sit like over in the corner, if you have a big enough room, and kind of cheer you on from there, but you really got to focus and concentrate on like getting this baby out. So there wasn't like a lot of time to be like, hey, is everyone enjoying themselves? Let me entertain everyone. Then we kind of just sat there for a while and kind of let everything happen, and then we were moved to a postpartum room, but I was up walking within 2 hours to go to the bathroom on my own after they took the catheter out and everything. Yeah, I was actually really surprised that was the case. So it wore off a lot faster than I thought it was gonna wear off. I'm not gonna go into like how everything happened afterwards. The baby was healthy baby girl. At that point, we decided to officially name her Brooklyn Rose. So that is her name. So baby B is now baby Brooklyn. She weighed 8 pounds, 3.4 ounces. And she was a little over 20 inches long when she was born, and she was perfect. Of course, everyone says that about their baby, but she was very healthy, and we're very lucky and blessed to have a healthy baby. I want to talk about certain things postpartum and like also kind of how our first week went and the things that we actually used the first week versus the things we didn't use, which of course is different for everyone because I've watched a million videos on stuff, and there's stuff I bought because I was like, oh, this person said you'll use it and I haven't used it yet. And like hospital bag stuff, I had something on my personal Facebook and asked questions about what to bring your hospital bag, and I was like, oh my god, people were like, everybody wrote different stuff was essential. So I kind of want to have a little bit more time before I commit to like telling you what to do. But I wanted to kind of talk about that labor and delivery story. All in all, I think it was amazing. That is a rundown of my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. Of course, I'm sure it is all over the place because, hey, that's what it is when you had a baby 4 days ago. Thanks for watching. I promise I will try to get some beauty videos up in the next couple of weeks while I'm on leave. Maybe, hopefully, but hopefully you guys enjoyed my labor and delivery story. I just really wanted to share it because I had a positive experience, and I think some people have negative experiences and scare the crap out of everyone else. If you're watching this and you're pregnant, you have an amazing experience as well. Positive thoughts, I really think that helps in the whole process, is just believing that you're going to be okay and that you're going to do okay, and that this process is gonna go, not that you know how it's going to go, but that it's going to go well. That you believe in your doctors and you believe in your, hopefully, midwife. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.